So, guys, what's going on in the gaming industry right now is absolutely insane. The gamers' massive boycott against feminism in gaming has won. Basically, Concord, that came out about a month ago, was a game entirely based around feminist propaganda. It has been revealed today that this game is now costing Sony $400 million. They spent $400 million to develop it, and they only sold 25,000 copies, so basically making back around $1 million, and now they're shutting down the entire game. This is a massive loss for Sony. They've almost lost $500 million, and this is right up there with the whole Bud Light thing. Watching this video to fully understand why gamers have won, why this is a big win for men, and how this is going to begin to change things for men going forward in society. Today's video comes from Clownfish TV. Their channel will be linked in the description. You can go and check them out and support them. And now let's just go ahead and jump right into the video.
I thought we were done talking about Concord, Sony's big failure, but former gaming journalist Colin Moriarty is saying that Sony lost a lot more money on this game than we thought. The estimates originally were $100 to $200 million lost on Concord, and yeah, we're talking $400 million. $400 million lost. So let's talk about this. We're going to look at what he has to say about it. He would know people do come to him, and apparently this is on the Sacred Symbols podcast, and he came out and said, yeah, this is a much bigger disaster than what we were led to believe. Yeah, let's walk it back a little bit and let's talk about Concord. It was a hero shooter. It was a very ill-conceived idea, but apparently it was just the whole production process was not going very smoothly. But yeah, Sony thought it was going to be a huge hit for them. They thought it was going to be another Star Wars. Not that, you know, Disney Star Wars is in a very good place, but yeah, CNET has a story from when they shut the game down. It was shut down after 2 weeks. Sony shooter game Concord is shut down after just 2 weeks. September 6th was the last playable day for the game, which drew mixed reviews and very few buyers. It took them 8 years to develop this game, and there was still crunch. Sales of the game stopped immediately, and those who bought the game on services such as PlayStation, Steam, and Epic started seeing refunds. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Well, Sony and Firewalk never revealed publicly how much the game actually cost to develop. Some estimates have ranged from $100 million to $200 million, which is what Sony has reportedly spent on some of its big budget first party games. No, it was more than that. It was more than that. And this is a game that just hardly anybody played. A huge failure. I don't think this has ever happened before, that such a high profile title had the plug pulled in like 2 weeks. Now maybe they'll take it back to the kitchen, cook it again, bake it again, give us something better. Maybe, I don't know. Let's listen to Colin Moriarty, who has been getting hammered by his peers, his quote unquote peers in the video game industry. As I recall, I see a lot of drama around Colin, not by his doing, but because you know, some journos can't stand that he exists and he's doing things on his own terms now. Let's listen to this, though. He said, I spoke extensively with someone who worked on Concord. It's so much worse than you think it is. Was internally referred to as the future of PlayStation with Star Wars-like potential and a dev culture of toxic positivity. And the dev culture of toxic positivity halted any negative feedback. $400 million. $400 million, guys.
Q1 of 2023. From that point until the game launched, Sony spent another $200 million on it. The scuttlebutt behind the scenes about Concord is that the game was in a laughable shape when it was shown. And
imagine that. 8 years, activists given free reign over this game. And it was in laughable shape. Sony handed the keys to this game over to a bunch of activists. 8 years. Laughable shape after 8 years of development. They spent $200 million. They had to spend another $200 million to fix it.
ready, basically like when the alpha was ready to go, and they were kind of being like, we're ready to kind of get moving towards getting this thing out in the next year or two. It was in such horrible shape that Sony felt like they needed to spend that much money again. So, 200 plus 200 to get the game to the MVP status, not to the status of it being like a great game, to get it to just viability. And that at that time,
just let this sink in. They basically had to double the budget of the game just to get to a place of viability. We're hearing a lot of that going around now in Hollywood and in video games and in comic books and all this entertainment. We saw this with Inside Out 2, right? They had to really crunch on this movie and get rid of a lot of the messaging and redo a lot of scenes, and it probably cost them a lot more.
So it's very, very clear that they have lost a crazy amount of money developing this game, and it was the result of very stupid decisions on their part. They could have done a lot better, but instead they chose to do bad. They chose to make a lot of foolish mistakes, and now this is a situation that they're absolutely in, and no one is going to feel bad for them even in the absolute least
than it would have had they got it right the first time. I'm just saying. DEI makes your bank account DIE.
Time in Q1 2023, there was nothing done. Like, a major expense was having to...
Look at this guy's face. Look at this guy's face. Like, here we are at the beginning of 2023. This game has been in development at this point like 7 years, 6 or 7 years, and there's nothing done. Where'd the money go? Where'd the money go? This is like a years late Kickstarter. Where'd the money go?
Urgently outsource much of the game to other studios to finish building the game out. And that two fundamental things were not worked on at all up to the point in which the game was shown in alpha. Onboarding, nothing about that. No, like there was nothing about how players get on, like how they make their character, all that kind of stuff, or, choose their character and get there. And monetization. Two very expensive, very specific and boutique things that happen.
Wow. Yikes.
In the games like this. And so that's the first thing that I wanted to say, is that it's not only about the ongoing cost, which would be in the millions to keep the game going per month, but that the game cost about $400 million to make.
$400 million for the biggest failure in AAA gaming history.
Soup to nuts. Sony put most of that money in, and it is not only so, because we had kind of said like this must be Sony's biggest loss ever on a game, and it is. It's the
Sony's biggest loss ever on a game.
Biggest game Sony's ever released from a budgetary standpoint, from the first party or second party. So
look at this guy's face. He's just like, I don't watch your show, guys. I'm sorry, but I'm like, look at his face. He's just like, how in the hell did this happen? I'm sure there are people at Sony right now asking themselves, how in the hell did this happen?
Let that sink in.
It's crazy.
And it's totally unintuitive. There are games that are in development right now at Sony, first and second party, that are more expensive than this. But as of the games that have come out so far, so think about like Spider-Man 2 and so on and so forth. We know The Last of Us Part 2 cost $220 million. Spider-Man 3 is going to cost about $350 million. This game costs more than that.
This game costs more than Spider-Man. And it lasted 2 weeks. 8 years of development. $400 million. They just burnt this money. My God.
And they lost all of it because they made no money. They made about $1 million gross revenue, and then they gave it all back. So this is a huge, multiple hundreds of millions of dollar loss. Now the question is, why?
Why?
Why
Yes.
did this happen?
Why did this happen? We know why. We know why. They handed the reins of the game over to people who were completely unqualified to be in charge of a game like this.
It was heavily championed behind the scenes. Now we know this because Sony ended up... What's funny is that the game is presented in Q1 2023 as this, we're kind of getting towards the end. The game is nowhere near being done. It's in a horrible position. and then Sony buys the team. The idea behind this was, and the term apparently verbatim had been used, that Concord is the future of PlayStation.
All right.
That they had such major ambition for this game.
But look at this guy's face. I love this guy's face. He's just like, he's like fighting off a migraine. He cannot believe what he's hearing.
That it was referred to internally as a Star Wars-like project for Sony. It can be repeatedly revisited over and over and over again, not only in cross-media, but in what we were seeing. We've already kind of seen little bits of it. So,
yeah, I'm not gonna play more of this. Go out to Colin's thread on Twitter, but let's see some of the reactions to this. Savvy, Madam Savvy, is this factoring in the fact that Sony bought the studio or no? They were partnered with the other company, but was doing so badly they somehow convinced Sony to buy Firewall from them too. Yeah, they'd be better off buying Pocket Pair. A lack of honest feedback, says Carolyn, is the guaranteed recipe for failure. You're not allowed to criticize any kind of game that has a focus on DEI because you're a bigot. You're a bigot, right? Wow. I don't believe that number, says Dell. No, I think so. I mean, everything costs more than you think it actually does.
I mean, this was a decision that Sony made. And as a result of this very poor decision, as a result of very poor planning, they have now created extreme problems for the company because they're going to take massive losses. This is a $400 million loss. It cost $200 million to develop the game. And then at $200 million in, because they hired a bunch of woke programmers, they hired a bunch of women. And let me make this very clear. There are many amazing women in gaming. Tons of amazing women in gaming. Tons of producers, women who are involved in the productions of games. We're not talking about these women. All right? We're not talking about these women at all. Okay? Experienced women who are... And just to be clear, most of the programming is typically done by men, but there are a lot of producers and so forth. They didn't hire these women. They hired DEI women. So they hired women specifically that would design content for diversity, equity, and inclusion. At $200 million into the game, after spending $200 million on the game, they then discovered the game was not even playable. Was not playable, was not functional. Guys, this is something that could have been built for like for not even $100 million, for like $1 million or less. When you look at Pal World, for example, they built this game on a shoestring budget. We're talking about like literally like a carton of milk money. I am so serious. And what ended up happening here is truly insane. Truly, truly insane. Because the developers at this game of Concord, they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. So they ended up developing a game that was buggy, that could barely work. Sony had to spend another $200 million to bring in a bunch of men and women who knew how to develop games. And even then, this was the best that they could put out. They lost $400 million. And what's going around the gaming industry right now, what a lot of gaming YouTubers are pointing out, what a lot of players are pointing out is that we don't think that the PlayStation 5 Pro, which just basically was announced for $700 in the US, the equivalent of $800 in $800 and $900 in the EU. Actually, I think it's $900 in the EU. It's insane. It's an insane amount of money when everything is said and done. We don't think that originally it was going to cost this much. So the PlayStation 5 Pro should never have cost this much. Evidently, it's only costing Sony $400 to manufacture every PlayStation 4 Pro unit. And yet they're selling it at a $300 profit. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, Sony has said that they're trying to maintain their profit margins, but this looks like excessive amounts of greed. And to make matters worse, Sony is well aware that what they're doing is that they're making the price of this device so high that the typical person will no longer be able to afford it. You know, that was the whole purpose of the PlayStation from the very beginning of gaming consoles. They allowed people to play games, and that's what Sony did with the original PlayStation. It allowed people to play 3D games at a time when you would need computer hardware that would cost in the thousands to do this type of thing, to render these types of games, to create this type of thing. And they continued on with this. They had a big blunder with the PlayStation 3, where they tried to, charge a psychotic amount for it. They learned their lesson, and then with the PlayStation 4, that went back to being priced more normally at a more realistic price. That came out for like $400, and then it went down to $299. And then when the PlayStation 4 Pro came out, that was $399, which was the original price of the PlayStation 4 Pro, PlayStation 4. Even with this hyperinflation that we're experiencing, there's no reason for this thing to cost as much as it does. As I've said, it's only costing them $400 evidently to develop each PlayStation 4 Pro, which means it's also costing them around $299, around $300 to develop each PlayStation 5 Pro. And it's only costing them presumably around $300 to develop each PlayStation 5. So typically Sony would sell their consoles at a loss. They don't have to even do that at this point. They can sell the PlayStation 5 for $299, which is what it usually sold for, and it would make their money back on games, and then it would sell the PlayStation 5 Pro for $399, and again, they would make their money back on games, and they wouldn't be taking a loss. But they're now trying to make massive profit off these units, which is something that never happened before. Even with Nintendo, when they launch their products, they usually make a profit off their products, but it's not a massive profit. It's not like $200 or $300. This is completely unheard of, where you launch a product and you're going to make almost double what your product costs to make. That's like what? So they're pricing a lot of people out of the gaming industry right now. They're pricing a lot of consumers out. And a lot of people are saying the reason why this is happening is specifically because of Concord. Well, so Sony purchased Bungie, like a couple of years ago, and Bungie has gone to hell. They've lost tons of money. They purchased it for over like 3 something billion dollars. And now we're being told there won't be a Destiny 3. There's this game marathon coming out. The company has gone kind of to shit. And Sony has lost a lot of money as a result of the purchase of Bungie. They did not make their money back. Now fast forward to Concord, and they've lost now almost $500 million on Concord. Now, and based on the information that we're receiving from Clownfish, they said, and the information he received, they were saying that, this thing may have cost $400 million total to develop, but that does not tell us the entire story. So you're like, what? Angry, what are you talking about? Yeah, so evidently that's not the whole story, because it cost $200 to develop initially, then another $200 to get it functional. But we're not talking about the marketing budget. We're not talking about shipping. We're not talking about any of these things. These are all other factors. This is crazy. Guys, this is madness. This is madness. So the $400 million those are just the development costs. Those aren't the marketing costs. Those aren't the production costs to produce all of the disc. Those are not there's a lot of additional cost that goes into distribution, the distribution cost. This game will potentially end up costing Sony more than $400 million right now, because we were only talking, and I had said this before, that when you factor in all the other costs in addition to the $200 million or $250 million they had presumably lost developing the game, they could end up taking $500,000, $300 or $500,000 loss, $400 to $500,000 loss. But at this point, no, we have to completely reevaluate, because there are additional costs to developing games. In addition to developing it, there's also the production, there's also shipping and so forth. So if they're not taking that into consideration, I mean, right now we're already at a $500 million loss. But if it could be more, it could be well more than that when you factor in other things. Like, this could be pushing closer to about $600 or $700 million, which is then approaching $1 billion in losses. And of course, this would very negatively affect Sony's bottom line. So what do they have to do? They have to show that they are bringing in large amounts of money from other areas. So they're going to price They're basically going to go after the ponies, and they're going to try to get as much money out of the ponies as possible. The ponies are basically the losers in the PlayStation fan base who are like, yeah, man, I don't care. No matter what, so they're like, my console's better than yours, no matter what. And I've always been a PlayStation fan, but fuck these people at this point. Fuck those guys. It's great if you like your PlayStation 5. Granted, it has no games. However, it's like to say that $790 to say $800 is fair, without a disk drive, because this thing doesn't even have a disk drive. Like this looks like a very desperate move on their part. And we know that there's a lot of hyperinflation. We know things are costing more now. I think a lot of that's bullshit as well. They've evidently on like some of NVIDIA's GPUs, they're making like a $1,000 profit. $1,000 profit on your GPU, bro? Like, little bro, are you okay? Are you feeling okay, little bro? A $1,000 profit. So yeah, evidently they're making like a $1,000 profit on some of these GPUs. So they're clearly ripping off the consumer. And I think that's a big concern that we all have to think about and we all have to take into consideration. But it's really more than all of this, guys. It's more than that. We're just scratching the surface right now with all of the bullshit. We are literally just scratching the surface right now with all of the bullshit around us. This thing is going to is potentially going to cost them even closer to $1 billion. And they're basically just reeling right now, trying to make any money, make up the loss, and recoup the loss in any possible way that they can. And this means jacking up the price of their things. Like, if they could raise the price of the base PlayStation 5 again, because they've already been raising it in the US, and they very well may do it again. Don't be shocked if they're like, okay, PlayStation 5, the base model, it's going up to $599 now. It would not shock anyone. It absolutely would not shock anyone. And they're going after the people who basically will just keep on paying for their garbage. And their response is like, well, like the CEO of Sony, one of these guys at Sony said that, well, it's still a value compared to PC, because even though it's now approaching the same cost as PC, PC is still more difficult for people. Like, PlayStation is still easier to use. So people are going to pay for that convenience. Keep in mind, you have things like the Steam Deck, which are just absolutely amazing, and the learning curve is much lower for the Steam Deck. All right, much lower for the Steam Deck. Also, there's the Nintendo Switch 2 that's coming out, and evidently the price for that's I thought it would be $399, which I think is crazy high. No. Which I think was good, a fair price, but evidently they're saying that it will be $500, and it'll be 8 inches, so it'll be kind of closer in size to the Steam Deck. It'll be much larger, but they're saying that it's going to be like they're saying it's going to be $500, which I think is kind of fucking crazy. And because that's going to basically price everyone out. People can go and pick up an older model, but like if you want a Nintendo Switch 2, you want to play newer games that are made for the Nintendo Switch, like, who the hell is going to be able to afford something like that? Like, no, like, you cannot, parents are not going to spend $500 to buy their kid a Nintendo Switch 2. Like, that's literally something, that's literally just something that's just for what do you call, for adults. I mean, even 300 is scratching it, because you can get, they had the Switch Lights, and those the Switch Lights were a lot more affordable. They cost $200, and parents were just giving them to their kids, and their kids were destroying them, which is fine. But when you start talking about 300 or $350 for the OLED, then you're talking about real money. $500, it doesn't matter how high the inflation is right now. 500 is still a lot of money for a lot of people, because the wages have not kept up with inflation. People are actually making less money today than they were in 2019. So this entire situation is literally jaw-dropping and downright startling. So it does appear that Sony is trying to make up for the major losses they've incurred because of their stupid decisions to put out woke garbage that no one wanted. What implications does this have? Well, immediately, I can't say, But over the long term, these companies are losing massive amounts of money. Ubisoft has lost a shitload of money because of the woke garbage they've been putting out, and eventually these companies have to basically make a decision. Either you want to make money or you want to go woke. Microsoft fired their entire DEI department like a couple of months ago. Like the entire department, they just wiped them out. Like that was like potentially like what, hundreds of employees? That's insane. Okay. And for example, you heard earlier Cloudfish was talking about, I think it was Up or Inside, something or the other. This was a Disney movie that had a lot of themes in it, and Disney basically sent an internal memo, I think, telling the people that were developing it, telling the animators and the production crew to make the movie less LGBTQ centered. And again, I'm not saying anything negative about the LGBTQ, but I'm just making this point because I want you to understand that as soon as money comes into the picture, in Buzz Lightyear, they had a scene in the movie where there was a kiss between two individuals of the same gender, and the movie performed horribly. And Disney ultimately concluded that the reason why this occurred was just because of that kissing scene. And they went and they could not afford, they couldn't afford to have that repeat. So they had to go back to this movie that had a lot of this later movie that coming out that had a lot of, themes in it, and say, take it all, like make it as, get rid of that stuff. We need this to be more, 90s Disney, family friendly Disney that does not have these themes in there. And they basically went in and scrubbed it. And it cost a lot of money for them to do this. This is pretty big, guys. This is pretty big. What it signals for us is that there's a major tide. Men are voting with their wallets. Men are saying that, hey, we don't want this and we're not going to tolerate it. If you're going to keep on putting out this woke garbage, if you're going to keep on putting out this propaganda, we're not going to pay for it. And they're walking away. Games like Stellar Blade, this was a game where like you had a hot chick that came down from like outer space, and she was like fighting enemies, and she was like switching outfits. She was like, IGN, you can't spell IGN without ignorant. They went after the guy, the developer called him like an incel, said that the model within the game looks like a doll. Then, someone showed them a picture of his wife. They posted a picture of the guy's wife on the CEO's wife, and the CEO's wife looked like basically the equivalent of the girl in the game. And basically it's based on South Korea, a South Korean model. And again, that's what a lot of South Korean women look like. And if then IGN apologizes and says, okay, well, it's not our fault because, it was written by our office in France, and they're an independent office, so we shouldn't be blamed for it. Then there was Black Myth Wukong that IGN tried to slander, claiming that it was a game that was misogynistic. The game there's nothing focused on misogyny in the game. It's literally just about a monkey fighting gods, evidently. Like, this is it. It's just like, that's like the story Dragon Ball was based on. Goku is like based on the monkey god, like, or this monkey dude. And it's like, this is what and then, the Black Myth Wukong has now made potentially last we checked, around $850 million. And it's still, people are still loving it and playing it. And they tried to go after Black Myth Wukong. Black Myth Wukong basically barred anyone who got review codes for the game from discussing feminist propaganda, woke stuff, and anything like that. And basically, when reviewing the game, they said all you can do is review the game, talk about what you like and don't like, talk about the graphics, any issues that you have with the game. You can only review the game and say what you do or do not like about the game, but you cannot bring identity politics in. They specifically said no feminist propaganda, and you had to agree to these terms before you got a review code or accepted a review code. And that's what ended up happening. They were pissed off about it. Guess what? The game is a banger. And it's only one game after another game after another game coming out this year that stays away from feminist propaganda, stays away from diversity, equity, inclusion, and it's doing amazing. Sony actually thought that this game Concord, which was basically, it had trans characters in it, it had a slew of diverse characters from the LGBT community. They believed that this was going to be a banger. This is what society wanted. This was going to be their next big live service game that was going to generate billions of dollars for the company. And in the end, it did not end up doing that. The game ended up being a colossal failure. If you look at a lot of the character models in the game, the character models are absolutely horrific. How they could ever think that people wanted to play with these kinds of character models? It was like one of the worst. It's like Overwatch, except not as fun as Overwatch. And it's like, what the hell? And like, why would you want to look at this around the clock? And so this is all very interesting, and it's all going to have a massive impact and implication on the future of game development and the future of what they can sell. Because guys, they can keep on trying to lose more. They're saying that they're going to just keep on doubling down. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter, because you're just going to keep on losing money. And if you keep on making games so expensive that people can't afford to buy them, they'll just move over to Steam, because everyone's now saying like, yeah, it's time to go and build a gaming PC. Everyone's saying that, and Sony can act like they don't care. These companies, as soon as they start losing money, as soon as their bottom line is affected, they immediately start to show you just how little they actually care about this stuff. They're only doing it because they're trying to pander in society. But as soon as the money starts to dry up, then then their family orientated thinking comes back. Understanding, their appreciation of their male cohort comes back. That's the honest to goodness truth. And this shows you how much power men have in society. If we basically vote with our money, if we say we're not going to give you our money, we're not going to give you our value, then you're done. And if the state comes and says, okay, well, if you don't give it to us, we're just going to take it. Well, then if they take it, then we're just not going to earn any more. We'll just reduce. We will just reduce the amount of money that we earn. It's true. We'll reduce the amount of money that we earn. We'll cut back on earning. We'll cut back on everything. We'll basically, and we'll just, like I said, the average man could live happily in a shoebox at the side of the road. The average woman cannot. Men pay 80% of all taxes in society. Women make 80% of all consumer purchases. So you piss off the people who are paying your bills. You piss off the people who are building your infrastructure. Guys, the society cannot function without men. So this is a massive win for men. This is a massive L for the for feminism, for propaganda, for woke culture, diversity, equity, inclusion. This is a huge win, and the bangers just keep on coming. And something tells me there's a lot more, because we have the new Ubisoft game coming out, and that's going to be a failure as well. It potentially, and you have to understand, when these Star Wars Outlaw came out, and it cost Ubisoft a ton of money. It was a more diversity, equity, inclusion garbage, more feminist propaganda. The game sold horribly. It cost a lot of money to develop, did not sell well. It's costing Ubisoft billions of dollars. They're saying they're only going to continue doubling down. Sony's saying they're only going to continue doubling down. The more they double down on pushing, woke garbage, pushing agendas within their games, the less people are going to purchase them, and the more they're going to have to raise their prices to make up for the profit losses, and that's only going to push people further away from their games. So the ponies, the PlayStation fanboys who are like, oh yeah, I'll pay $500 I'll pay $1,000, I'll pay $1,200 for a PlayStation. It does, guys. Eventually, what ends up happening is that eventually, if the base becomes smaller and smaller, because people start going elsewhere, it becomes very hard to get them back. And once you've lost trust, it's very hard to ever get trust back. Yeah, guys. So I just want to remind you to also check out our Learn How to Survive and Thrive course using government community resources. It's absolutely important with everything that's happening around us right now. The world is really changing around us, and it's something important for you to know how to do. So, in today's challenging world, knowing how to use government and community resources can make all the differences. That's why I created the Survive and Thrive course. This 12-lesson crash course teaches you how to survive, how to secure cash, money, food, housing, healthcare, and more. Imagine having a trusted advisor showing you how to leverage community resources, and how to leverage community support to stabilize your finances and grow your wealth. Join me and learn step-by-step strategies to maximize available resources and enhance your financial stability. Click the link in the description to sign up now. And then also, guys, go and check out the Angry Guy Clubhouse, dive into exclusive podcasts, manosphere topics, and more. Plus, get access to our passive income blueprint, exclusive videos and guides on building wealth and thriving. We also have a chat where you guys can reach me directly. Don't miss out. Click the link in the description to subscribe now, and also get your passive income blueprint, a free copy of your passive income blueprint. I mean, guys, this is kind of the reality we live in, where society is kind of really going through a very, very interesting change. The massive financial losses that Sony is incurring now is not just localized to Sony. It's going to happen with Ubisoft. It's happening throughout the gaming industry. Microsoft, in many ways, is basically pulling out of the gaming industry. They are just kind of moving towards becoming a service. So basically selling a subscription service where people will buy, play their games through a subscription where they won't actually own anything, but they'll be perfectly happy with that, because, hey, you can access your games, for this amount of money. But over time, once people have, gotten comfortable using Game Pass, and, people are using Game Pass, and buying physical games is now becoming a thing of the past, or even buying digital games. That's when they'll basically jack the price up. Oh, so you want to play games now? Okay, well, so now it's going to be $1,000 a year. That's $100, or $1,200 a year to play these games. Like, it's good. They're going to find new ways. And you want to play the DLC? Yeah, that's not included, man. That's extra. Okay, so that's how they're going to do it. That's how all of these business models work. That's how the models work with like, for example, Uber. When Uber first came out, it was very affordable. Everyone could use it. That it was a very, very good. It was very, very good, and then until it wasn't. The cost of Uber kept on going up. It kept on going sky high, and people were just, like, for example, it started out, it was very affordable, and then after they basically chased off all the livery cabs, they chased off, the cab drivers, and people started using this, and it replaced the old way of doing things. That's when they jacked the price up, and they blamed inflation. They didn't give a shit, and now you're gonna have to pay. Now we're paying like $60 to go, like, just go down the street. I'm like, so serious. What used to cost like just like 10 or $15, now that's 45, 50, 60, even $80 if it's rush hour. And that's what happens with absolutely everything. That's how it's a strategy they use. So they're obviously going to do that with Game Pass. Right now, I mean, the prices have been going up regardless, but they're going to go sky high because they want to move away from a place where you will even be able to own anything. They don't want you even owning digital licenses anymore. They want you to own nothing and be happy and spend. And if you want to access something, it's going to be on a subscription plan. You won't physically own anything. You will not physically own any media. You will not, the goal is to physically own. The consumer physically owns nothing. It's basically, it's really a form of slavery, to be very honest with you. It is a form of slavery. It's something outside of a Marxist manifesto, where you own nothing, but the elites own everything. They own it all, and you're going to keep on working for the rest of your life just so that and they'll keep taking more and more and more, and that's it. And you will own nothing, and you will be happy, because that's all. Eventually, that's all you will know, and that's what all people will know. Like, they want to move us towards a reality where people don't, where future generations never even knew the concept of actually physically owning anything. That's where we're going. Hell, you want to use a microwave? Oh, you're gonna have to pay a subscription fee for that. You want to use the stove? Because that's why they're moving us towards electric stoves. Because eventually, you want to use the stove, you want to cook. Okay, there's this. Well, that's a fee. Because with a gasoline-based stove, you could always use the stove. But with an electric stove, they can just turn it off at any time. It's 100%. They can flip a switch, and it's either they can turn off your power, or forget it, or not. If they don't, and now you're like, well, they can also turn off your gas. But yeah, but they can also, when everything is just straight up electric, and now it's digital, and it's interconnected to the internet or whatever. Now you're on a subscription fee. So you want to cook food, oh, you're going to have to pay a subscription fee just to use the stove to prepare food. And eventually, and basically, they're like, oh, well, it's a very small fee. They start out with a very small fee, and then they make it convenient for you. So basically, people trade freedom for security, and then they end up with neither. It's a sick thing. It's very, very sick.
Right. Just, I mean, this is like with movies and stuff too. People are like, hey, the movie cost $200 million, so they lost $200 million. No, it's like, no, the movie cost $200 million and then another 150 million on promotion and other expenses or whatever. And that's just a ballpark number. But yeah, everything costs more. Concord's budget was $400 million. That's beyond insane. Toxic positivity is such a good way to describe a lot of these devs these days. Yeah, you're not allowed to say it. You can't say, hey, this thing looks generic as hell. It looks boring as fuck. Everybody's roasting the hell out of us. You know, Overwatch did it better 8 years ago. You guys are way too late to the game. And, if it were me, if I were Sony and I saw the budget ballooning up, I'd be like, you know what? It's better to lose $200 million than lose $400 million. But they have to have people there who are just like, no, you have to do it. It's going to be the biggest thing ever. This is what all the Gen Z kids want. It's going to be great on TikTok, guys. This thing started production in like 2016, right?
So let's just be very, very clear. They're obviously working with a lot of these diversity, equity, inclusion people. They're telling them, yeah, this is exactly what society wants. This is what the world wants. This is what's selling in the US right now. It's all about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And these companies are greedy. These companies are greedy. And they're going to do and say anything to get that money. But as you can see, they will step backwards and run the other direction very, very quickly if it costs them money. Look at what happened with Target. Target basically ran into the situation where they were putting up certain types of material in certain areas. Guys, look at the screen. Look at this. Like, look how ugly the characters in Spider-Man is now. Like, look at, like, guys, like, this is how, like, this looks just absolutely hideous. Like, this is Spider-Man. I think this one is Miles Morales, and just look how terrible the footage is. The footage is like this is supposed to be like a real character, and like the characters are no longer attractive. They're no longer beautiful. They're just like, they remove like any details that would lead you to wanting to, say, wow, this is pretty. Like, the only benefit is like, oh well, when they're wearing their mask, it's nice. And this is all about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Oh, creating realistic characters. Guys, now, guess what? These people don't even look like normal people anymore. They don't look like people who have... They don't look like normal people anymore, because normal people, there's at least something decent about them. They all look hideous. Absolutely hideous. And this is what Sony has done. This is a first-party game from Sony. Spider-Man is a first-party game from Sony. And they just won't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. And they're just going to continue passing the cost on to the consumer. They're going to say, okay, well, we're losing all of this money, so we're just going to go ahead and keep passing it on to the consumer. We're just going to keep on making life horrible for the consumer. Like, that's it. That's it. We're just going to keep on doing this. Like, this is how we're going to make our money now. We're going to make our money by making life horrible for the consumer. We're going to make our money by charging the consumer more. So when we fuck up and we put out stuff that the consumer doesn't want, we're just going to basically keep on raising the prices because they don't have a choice. But you know what's really great? Like, Sony used to make stuff. They used to be one of the largest manufacturing companies in the world. They used to make cell phones. They used to make televisions. They used to make DVD players, VCRs. They used to make all kinds of shit. And guess what? They don't make shit now. All they have is like Sony Pictures. So basically, their movies and television, their media division, and their PlayStation division. So basically, they are living entirely off just these brands. They're just living off their content. They're living off the PlayStation brand right now. The entire company is like very much PlayStation. And if they continue to rob the consumer will go elsewhere. Like right now, we're between a rock and a hard place. But people are moving towards a new movement called the buy nothing movement. A lot of people are now basically like, we're not going to buy anything, which is the reason why you should check out my course so you can learn how to buy nothing. All right, buy nothing and thrive. It is a very, very important thing for you guys to learn how to do this and leverage these skills. Buy nothing and thrive. It's so, so important. So, so important. Oh my gosh, guys. I don't feel sorry for Sony. I think I'm glad to see this happening to them, and it's only going to continue getting worse. It's only going to continue getting worse because of what they're doing. They'll eventually run out of money. They don't have infinitely deep pockets. They don't have infinite amounts of money. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Nothing lasts forever. The terrible decisions and the terrible choices that they're making now will affect them into the long term. It will create serious problems for them. They will eventually begin to run out of money as people refuse to buy their shit. Look at, like, guys, right now the typical game costs $70 for a new game. And it's $70 for a new game, but if you want to have the full experience, it's like $120. Like, what? The full experience? So they basically cut the game up into pieces, and the consumer doesn't know if they're going to get the full experience, because they're telling you you're not going to get the full experience. They're telling you if you want to get the full experience, you're going to have to buy this. But then when you call them on it, they're like, no. It's the full game. It's the full game. This is just some bonus stuff. But it literally tells you there's additional missions. There's additional, like, all this additional stuff. Like, you're obviously not getting the full experience. Like, it's going to get to the point where they're going to take out mechanics, like very critical mechanics in the game, where you can do certain things in the game that they're not just cool to look at, but like these are, like, for example, jumping. Like, oh, you can jump, like you can still jump in the game, but if you want to double jump, you're gonna have to. That's in the $100 or $150 version of the game. Oh, you can. You can do everything. You can do everything, but just not as well. You'll get better mechanics. You'll get better mechanics in the full game, and like with the in the premium, in the deluxe version. You'll get premium mechanics in the deluxe version. Premium mechanics. So Jesus help us. Jesus help us.
And it took them this long to make, and by the time it got to market, like, everybody's over the wokeness. The quote-unquote wokeness. That whole era, it's done, it's over, and AAA is imploding. And games like Concord are helping it implode faster. It's hastening the demise. There will never be another game like this. Because somebody at Sony is going to be like, we learned a lesson. Just like at Disney, Inside Out 2, they're like, we learned a lesson from Lightyear. We learned a lesson from Strange World and Wish. We're never doing that again. So these people, these DEI hires, a lot of them, they had their chance. You had your chance. You actually did get a chance. You got to jump to the front of the line. You got your chance. And time again, within the last 2 or 3 years especially, the ball keeps getting dropped. Money keeps getting lost. And now all these studios, to save their asses, are going to go back to formula. They're going to go back to old Coke, to classic Coke, because new Coke doesn't work. Now, it doesn't mean that, we can't have games that have organic diversity, but you can't have another Concord. You can't have another Dustborn. You can't have another Star Wars Outlaws, which is buggy as hell. And I saw a video by Larry Bundy yesterday. I think it was yesterday, where he was posting his gameplay, and like, it's ridiculous. I mean, this looks like a beta for a game, like beta testing, like buggy as hell. And this game's already been patched, like, a couple times. It was patched on day one. $70 to $120 for this game.
So these losses for Sony are basically what anyone with half a brain would just refer to as big fat L's. So they're taking these big fat L's that they've absolutely earned. And it's great seeing them suffer. It's great seeing them lose money. It's great seeing, and just like you said, like, they're going to have to go back to classic Coke. I'm probably going to go and order some Diet Coke after this. I'll order a nice large cup of Diet Coke. I love Diet Coke. All right, love it. I know you guys, some of you guys are sticklers. Like, listen, guys, I eat. Listen, I'm on carnivore. I'm back on my carnivore diet. Okay, I'm on carnivore, but I do have a little cabbage. I have a little veggie. So it's not pure carnivore, but carnivore is basically just eating meat. So like I'm back on my grind. But you know, I'm gonna have a little diet coke. Gonna go have a little diet coke. All right. I know there are those of you that'll say it's not good for you. I agree. Ah, fuck you. All right. Let me just enjoy my life a little bit. All right. I'm not like the sleeping and farting Gen Zers. Okay. I'm out here. I'm grinding, and guys, I haven't even slept. I'll tell you something crazy. Like I tried to sleep and I was having trouble sleeping, and then I woke up. I got up and I just had to start grinding, and it's so funny because you have people who are like trying to talk shit to me. You've got these people who are trying to talk shit to me. I got a comment from this one idiot, and this guy, the shit that this idiot said. I just wanted to show you the shit that this idiot said. So he left a comment on one of my videos, and he says, "Angry guy, do you not have any friends? Do you not have any friends?" In other words, and of course he might come back and try to act like, oh, I was just asking a question. I don't have friends. Fuck you, bro. Fuck you. Why would you ask that? Like, I get these questions every so often. I get them pretty regularly from people who are trying to fuck around with me because, like, they want to talk shit. They all want to talk shit because, I'm out here, I'm grinding, I'm getting my money. And what are they doing? They're doing absolutely nothing with their life. I'm providing value for people. I have over 50,000 subscribers. Okay, I have my Substacks, which is both a newsletter and a blog that I'm actively working on. All right, I'm building that up. I have all of these lines of business, and I'm working hard. I'm grinding. Everyone can see what I'm doing. Everyone, like when you watch me make videos right now, you guys know I do not have much of a life outside of making content on YouTube. Like I spend 99% of my time making my content on YouTube. I am completely dedicated to making content. All I do is study, learn. I mean, for fun, like I just signed up for Brilliant so like I can, work on other skill sets, learn other skills that's my life. Like that's what I do for fun. I watch a little bit of anime here and there. All right. I really do not play video games as much as I should be playing video games. I need to play more, but I'm busy and I'm constantly busy. Every day it's just hard work, hard work. And I wish I had known now. I wish I had known in my 20s and even my teens that friends don't mean shit. People don't mean shit. They will always betray you. They will always leave you. They will always turn their back on you. And during the hard times, that's when everyone is gone. During the good times, that's when everyone is around. That's the reason why you have to just have a good relationship with Jesus Christ, and you have to focus on yourself, and you have to grind. No one is going to take care of you other than you. And a lot of people don't want to hear it. Oh, if you had a real person wouldn't be sitting around just doing all of this, working like this all the time. You would be out there hanging out with friends. I'm not saying you shouldn't work, but if you were such a person of value, if people actually liked you, you would have friends to go and hang out with. I had plenty of friends in my life. I don't want to fuck with those motherfuckers anymore. If they message me, I won't respond to them. That's if they even have my phone number, because a lot of them don't even have my number anymore. I'm just being so real. Okay? Oh, the money will never make you happy. Listen to me. Money cannot make you happy, but it can sure as hell facilitate it. And the next big wave of the manosphere is men learning how to be alone. Learning how to be alone, learning how to be comfortable in your own skin and not relying on anyone else. That is the next big wave of the manosphere. And a lot of these, you know what's funny about it? You have people coming to the channel and insulting me and coming after me for the videos that I make, but bro, you're watching all of my videos, okay? So you're coming after me, and talking crap like, you're look at all the videos that you put out. But for you to know that I'm putting out video after video after video means you have to be watching my videos or at least paying attention to my channel. Because if you didn't like what I was doing over here, you wouldn't be subscribed. You wouldn't be commenting. You wouldn't know that I'm putting out constant videos. And you wouldn't be complaining about it. The people, my fans, the people who actually enjoy my content, they can't get enough. Sometimes I get frustrated with some people because I put out, like, for example, oh, I don't like how long this videos are. I want this and this and this. And it's like, bro, I put out 5 fucking videos, It's like, so again, I'm just like giving you an example. Right now, so many people, like, that are coming after me, try to talk shit to me. Man, these characters are really fucking ugly. My gosh, Sony has fucked up things. Like, characters now, they've just deliberately decided that they're going to make all of their characters fucking ugly. Like, I hope they fucking go broke. I hope they guys. If you're gonna play a game for many many hours, like I'm gonna spend 60 hours playing a game, the characters need to look good. They need to look attractive. All right. Like, these characters look absolutely awful. They look terrible. There's not one attractive character in the entire fucking game. Peter Parker is like absolutely hideous to look at. Like in the comics, Miles Morales, his mom is a baddie. They actually do a pretty good job depicting her in the Spider-Verse movie. Guys, yeah, we're heading back to classic Coke, but like I was saying, people coming after me that want to talk shit about me because because I work very hard. I put out a lot of content. I'm building out, I'm selling. Guys, I've got my courses. I have got everything out here. I'm doing good. All right? And what do these people have? They don't have shit to their names. I've got a video from Dreamcast Guy, great YouTuber. I really love Dreamcast Guy. He makes me. I like Dreamcast Guy so much because he impresses me. He's not a very handsome person, but it's not that but that's just his look. But and I don't mean to disrespect him, but I'm saying I like him so much because despite all of the hardships he's had in life, he is a person who could have basically said, you know what, I'm not a handsome guy. My voice is funny. People, no one's gonna like me. And instead, what this guy has done is this guy has built his own business. This guy goes to the gym. He works out at the gym. He's huge. Guy has giant arms on him. All right. Guy takes really good care of himself. And I think he's in a relationship. And it's just crazy. And he basically took this thing just talking about games and he's now built it into a business. He was on Spawn Wave previously. I don't know why he left Spawn Wave. Hopefully, I don't know if he had a falling out with them. Probably not. Or he just didn't have time for it anymore. Maybe I just wish he would come back and be on Spawn Wave, at least sometimes. But it is what it is. But again, it's just really really cool. I just really love the fact. I really love the fact that he's a person that would not be considered a very good looking guy. He's a person that could have gone down the whole, I'm gonna pity myself thing, and he did not. He built this giant brand for himself. He's built a channel that continues to grow. You can listen to him, and he's been developing his knowledge over the years, so he can talk critically about these different things. He can talk critically about games and the industry. There are people who come after him in the comments. He has a funny voice. Like, there's a lot of you that are like, "Hey, Angry, you've got a funny voice." I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't think it's that funny. I think when I record, it sounds funny. When I talk to people in person, no one really cares. All right. Maybe that's the honest to goodness truth. And he has a funny voice too. And it's like I love his voice. I love hearing his voice. I would never want to hear another voice. I love his personality. I love his content. And that's the thing about being original. Like, it's so hard to find people that are genuine. Like, these fuckboys come to the channel and they talk shit to me, and it's like, the thing is, like, you've got people who are like, "Oh, you don't like women, or you're this, or you're," they talk all kinds of shit, and then they have to come back months later and say, or years later, "Angry, you were right." All right, and like I said, it's no longer Angry, it's senpai. It's senpai or sama, and I've been getting that in the comments lately from people who pissed me off and talk shit and would troll me because, like, they were still watching the content. And, like, I got an apology from one. He basically said, "I'm going to apologize. I'm going to call you senpai, and basically and show my show my humility and not just sit and watch the content because yeah, I was talking shit to you and now I fully agree with you." Like, for example, and it wasn't like, this was like someone who was like, they disagreed with me about Gen Z, and I'm pretty sure like maybe something happened in their life, like they ended up working with a Gen Zer who fucked them over, and now they're like, and it wasn't just like one, it was like one after another after another. They saw it for themselves, and now they don't. They're like, "I don't understand what's going on. Oh, wait a minute, Angry talked about this. I could go back and listen to Angry. Oh yeah, so that's what's going on. Ah, yeah, I understand now. Okay, I could just I guess I could just lurk in the comments and act like, but you feel like a piece of shit, don't you? Because you were talking all of this shit to a YouTuber that was just trying to help you and telling you how things are, but you didn't want to accept it, and you were trying to get me to change my perspective when I'm telling you the reality of it. All right, Because like, listen, you could change my mind on a lot of things. My mind can be changed on a lot of things, but it's not going to be changed just because you don't like my views. All right, you have to come with something realistic. You have to come with an opinion, a real opinion. All right, don't just act like don't just be in your feelings. And then when you find out that, hey, I was right, you have to come back with humility, or else don't come back at all. Because I don't have to waste my fucking time on you. I don't have to waste my time on you. I don't have to waste my time speaking to you. I don't even have to glance in your motherfucking direction. I'm just being so fucking real right now. Because there's so many people who don't get that the way you treat others, it ends up coming back to you later on in life. You should not take advantage of others, but at the same time, you should also be mindful that a lot of people in this world are absolutely full of shit. Absolutely full of shit. Okay? And yeah, I'm just grateful. I'm just glad seeing that Sony is going to hell right now. I'm glad seeing that Sony is facing extremely hard financial times because of the stupid shit that they've done, the poor decisions that they've made. They tried to take advantage of people. They've been trying to take advantage of the consumer, and now it's gonna blow back in their motherfucking faces. So it fucking serves them right. I mean, it really serves them right. We have a video from Dreamcast Guy. I'm going to put on his video because he talks a bit more about this whole Concord situation. So we'll, hear what he says, and then we'll jump into that a little bit as well.
What's up, gamers? Dreamcast Guy here, and today we're talking about PlayStation. But I must admit that I'm actually pretty frustrated because this entire story, it aggravates me how bad Sony has got, whether it is the overpriced PlayStation 5 Pro or just the lack of new games or the fact that Sony first party seems so incredibly silent. But I want to talk about this today because these new leaks about Concord, they really just kind of highlight how ignorant PlayStation has gotten. But
And I just want to just really chime in very quickly, just to chime in, that remind everyone that you cannot spell ignorant without IGN. If I could take a moment to just throw some shade at those motherfuckers, I will throw that motherfucking shade.
let's talk, because a new leak came out literally just 5 minutes ago that PlayStation spent $400 million on Concord. They wasted $400 million on Concord, which is easily the biggest financial flop in all of gaming history. It's one of the most expensive games of all time. It cost more than freaking Avengers to make. Okay, let's talk about this, because I'm frustrated that the industry has even gotten to this point, but specifically PlayStation. But let's talk. Hi, hope you're having a great day, and if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So originally the video today was going to just be about this, that apparently the director of Concord randomly stepped down. It sounds like he's pretty much on the verge of being fired. They're not really sure what's going to happen to the studio, which is Firewalk. So this company was bought by Sony just to make Concord, because it was thought this is going to be part of our big live service push. In a lot of financial documents and a lot of public statements, PlayStation has talked about the fact that they want more constantly living experiences. Like, I feel like people kind of laugh at all the big single-player stuff that PlayStation has released. Stuff like Astrobot and Ratchet and Clank and Spider-Man and Gran Turismo. Those games may be very simplistic and straightforward and solo, but they're definitely the things that sold consoles. So this big live service push, I have always been very vocally against it, because it seems sort of antithetical. It seems sort of against the themes of what made PlayStation so big in the first place. And when I saw people reacting to this, a lot of people were like, okay, it's very strange that this entire project has managed to fall apart so spectacularly. I mean, this dude is one of the creative directors of Destiny 2. He left to make this game from scratch. But here's the leak that just came out that everybody is losing their minds about. This game cost $400 $400 million to make. Now, just even starting with that, literally everybody is like, how did they spend $400 million on Concord? Now, at this point, only 25,000 people on the planet even bought Concord. I feel like a lot of you guys who are watching this, even the most dedicated fans and subscribers, thank you for watching, by the way, most of y'all never even played it. Maybe you hopefully at least tried the beta with an open mind, but the game was just abysmally unfinished. It felt too raw. It just didn't really have any parts of it that felt unique. It just felt like some AI slop churned out by mixing together Guardians of the Galaxy and Overwatch in a very poor slushy. So the fact that this managed to cost more than Guardians of the Galaxy even took to make, the fact that this is the most expensive game of all time while looking so cheap is truly baffling. What crack was Jim Ryan smoking? Did anyone think this had Star Wars potential? Holy crap. So this is the other part of it, is that this is Colin Moriarty. This is part of their podcast called Sacred Symbols. It's all part of Last Stand Media. Now, this is such an interesting part, is that a lot of people are trying to figure out why it failed. Because, let's face it, there have been bad games that turn a profit. There's definitely been more crappy projects that have come out that managed to at least meet some expectations. We've also seen better games spend less money on it. So the whole confusion, it feels like, with Concord is who approved this? Why didn't it get canceled? Why didn't it get scrapped or reworked? Like, how did nobody at any points in the PlayStation process realize this game is not going to work? So this video is 9 minutes long. It's part of a much, much longer podcast, but essentially, Colin Moriarty had a chance to sit down and talk extensively with someone who worked on Concord. He verified who they were, he checked into their background, it's definitely a real person, and he said it's much worse than you think. Now, I watched this entire 9-minute video because it's just so good, and essentially, every part of this, PlayStation said, this is going to be our future. Now, even that, as a big PlayStation fan, that's a primary part of my frustration, is I hate the fact that Sony has grown so much, they've gotten so powerful, they're so dedicated to this mission to making games, but at the same time, their idea of what fans want seems so off base. Like, I talk to a lot of PlayStation fans. I follow a lot of PlayStation fans. I get a chance to just get into the dirt and go to forums and make videos about.
Yeah, guys, I mean, they've screwed up. Sony has screwed up very, very badly, and they're going to end up in an extraordinarily bad financial state. You know, like I was saying, they may end up having to sell off the company, because if they lose PlayStation, if they lose the PlayStation brand, they're not going to have anything else. They're not going to have anyone anywhere to turn to. Because PlayStation is basically the company right now, and it's been going downhill for a long time. They used to make all kinds of shit. Now what the hell does Sony make? They make Sony PlayStation, and that's it. Like, it looks literally like they're washing money at this point, where they make like, you know, cell phones, like one they have, I forget the name of their cell phones, and they're nice cell phones. But it looks like they're washing money at this point, because no, who the hell is buying these? Who the hell are buying Sony cell phones at this point? Sony smartphones at this point? All right, how many are you selling? Literally the same amount of copies as Concord, and you're still making this? So they've run that company completely into the ground. They've run that business into the ground, and now they're just living off PlayStation money. And if they keep this shit up, guys, I'm saying, what happens when big players like Samsung decide that they're gonna step in and make their own console, or ASUS steps in and starts making their own console? Because all of these handheld PCs, like the Rogue Ally is amazing. Lenovo, like the Lenovo Legion, this thing is giant. It's incredible. All right. What happens when you have a set-top experience or they're like, okay, well, you know what? Here, we're gonna make these consoles, all right, or these PC console hybrids that take the pain out of playing games, just like we did it with just like we've done it with the handhelds. Because you're already purchasing our handhelds. People are already purchasing these handhelds, and they're willing to put up with any shit, all right, because they can play their games easily this way. So what happens when they say, okay, well, we're just gonna start making these consoles that you can purchase and, you know, play play attached to your television, and now you can play Steam, and then on top of that, we'll have our own exclusive games. So we'll begin making games. We'll basically, and that's amazing competition. What happens when Samsung says we're gonna make ours? We're gonna make our own handheld, our own gaming handheld, like the Lenovo Legion Go, like the Rogue Ally, like the new one from like the Steam Deck. What happens when they do this? And what happens when they said, oh, we're just gonna make our own console too? We're gonna make our own console too, and it's upgradable, so you can, it'll have, this is the base model, and you can basically, like, it comes with 32 gigabytes of RAM, but you can upgrade the RAM all the way up to 128 gigabytes. And not only can you upgrade the RAM all the way up to 128 gigabytes, you can also use an external GPU. Many of you guys are like, Angry, what's an external GPU? So basically the GPU is a graphical processing unit. Those are basically the graphics cards right now that are costing a shitload of money and making NVIDIA a ton of money. But there are things called external graphics cards. So you can actually, for example, if you have integrated graphics cards, but you have external graphics cards, and you can just plug, I think it's through a USB, you just like plug them in through a USB into your computer, and then it will just you can take advantage of an external graphics card. And now you can play your games at even higher resolutions. So, guys, how many people are going to go out and do something like this, where they're just going to be told, yeah, you can go and purchase a PlayStation 5, or you can purchase this, where you can play your Steam games, you can play exclusives from us, and you can upgrade the hardware anywhere, anytime you want to. You're already going to get very nice hardware, and when you feel like it, you can put in a brand new GPU, you can swap out the GPU, you can use an external GPU, you may be able to do, so even if you can't swap out the GPU, you can use an external GPU and boost things and do it that way. And boost your RAM. It comes with 32 gigabytes of RAM, and you can now boost it up to 128 if you so desire. And you can make different tweaks to it, because it's still technically a PC. How many people are going to do this? How many people are going to start saying, like, oh yeah, I have this, but and you can you can also do things like, easily increase the SSD size. You can do that on the PlayStation 5 as well. But that's just like a normal thing. So bump up your RAM, increase your SSD size. It shipped with a gigabyte with 1 terabyte of SSD. Oh, now you can increase that up to 8 terabytes. All right. Like, and here's the thing, they're going to be releasing these things year after year. So like, it's not going to be a matter of, we're going to wait 7 years for a new PlayStation 5 and then to get incredible visuals. No need, little bro. No need. Because every year they're releasing something new. We know, like, there are new models every year, new graphics cards, so every year, bro, because men are not taking women out on dates anymore. You could go and spend $500, $600, $1,000 and buy the latest graphics card and plug that shit into your console, and play your games at crazy high resolutions. Now it's up to 8K. Now you can do 8K. Guys, this is crazy, because this affects both women. This affects women in society, because men are walking away and men are voting with their wallets, and they are not fucking around.
PlayStation and read the comment section, and I feel like what people want is almost a callback to the late PlayStation 3 and early PlayStation 4. That era where PlayStation was putting stuff out, where PlayStation game studios like Sony Bend and Sony Santa Monica and all these different studios were actually putting stuff out. Even if it was experimental or different or weird, a lot of times it was really good. Like, think of something like the Uncharted multiplayer. This is just a random example I'm pulling out of my ass, but if you ever played the Uncharted multiplayer or the Last of Us multiplayer, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it wasn't that good. Like, it was fun, it was competent, it was well balanced, but it wasn't like super fleshed out or something you'd play for seasons and seasons and seasons. I mean, I know some people are very obsessed with Last of Us's multiplayer, but my point is the fact that those were ideas they threw in purely for the passion of it. Clearly, it was just the fact that the developers, the worlds, the people over at Naughty Dog and stuff like that thought this stuff was so cool, they made that purely as just a for funsies add-on, even if it wasn't a perfectly fleshed out microtransaction-filled thing. PlayStation used to do stuff purely because they thought it was fun. You know, I feel like people keep bringing that up. I keep seeing this talking point come up again and again and again, which is remember fun. You know, there used to just be stuff that didn't always make perfect sense, or yeah, the balancing wasn't perfect, so you'd play a game and you could completely break the talent trees and still have a good time with it, but you couldn't say that games weren't fun. PlayStation was told this is going to be our Star Wars, our big billion-dollar franchise that is going to be extremely good, when internally the developers knew the game was incredibly unfinished even when PlayStation bought it. When Sony purchased Firewalk, the game was in a minimally playable state. It had levels and design and shooting and stuff like that, but they were probably told, even when they got purchased, they had already spent $200 million of their own investment making the game. Then they got bought by about $150 million from PlayStation, and Sony put an extra $200 million of their own money into the project to try and get into a playable state, which obviously they failed at, and they released it as unbroken as we have. So the rough numbers is that before even budgeting and stuff like that, like before marketing or any other material, they spent about $400 million baseline. In fact, in this video, he talks about the fact that they may have spent closer to $500 million just making Concord, and they got $0 for it. Remember that. They did mass refunds for Concord, so literally Sony got nothing out of this at all. You lose. Good day, sir. I have talked in the past about how I feel like the discussion around video games has kind of pivoted to be more negative. And I've spoken out against that, in that I do feel like people are overly obsessed about how every game's got to be perfect, every game's got to be super polished and great. I guess I kind of enjoy 7 out of 10 experiences more than a lot of gamers do, which is fine. I'm not telling you to buy every game. Obviously, I buy a lot of games. I beat a lot of games. But I think I have an appreciation for games that are almost correct, where they have game loops I don't particularly love or problems and stuff like that. Because even a kind of messed up 7 out of 10, a lot of times I appreciate good ideas, games that clearly are close to what they're trying to achieve, even if they fall a bit short. But I think almost the criticism at times of video games is part of the game itself. And apparently there has been this rise of toxic positivity that, I'll be honest, I hate that. I have sometimes people come at me. I think the biggest criticism I get constantly is, you bag on games too much. Clearly, you enjoy just hating on bad game news or the constant freaking face plants from Xbox. Clearly, I genuinely enjoy reporting on Xbox's continual L's they take. But apparently, internally at this company, and I've heard this at other companies, there is this obsessive, toxic positivity where you can't talk bad about the project. I think toxic negativity is a problem as well. People that just obsessively hate on stuff. But I feel like people got to figure out how to take that step back and be more objective to talk about games for good or for bad. Every aspect of this, I think, it's already clearly gone down as the biggest financial failure in video game history. It's the biggest financial failure of PlayStation history. But I also feel like I hope other companies learn from this lesson. I hope other companies are able to realize that good ideas are something that take time. Good ideas take flesh soil. They take a lot of time to grow. They take a lot of passionate people, a lot of time sitting in a room and sort of just figuring things out. This game took 8 years to make and still felt rushed. I almost feel like if they were able to criticize their own art, death of the author, I wish they had been able to kind of kill the project so the best aspects of it could grow. I don't know. It's just so bad that I'm still confused as to why they allowed this to happen. Jim Ryan, whatever heads of PlayStation, Herman Hulst, whoever thought this was a good idea, I think somebody needs a pay cut or something. I don't know. This is just bad.
I mean, guys, Sony just created this mess for themselves, but it's wonderful for gamers. It's wonderful for men in general, because as men, we're basically seeing the writing on the wall. Like, this is hell on earth for these companies. They have now created their own despair. They have created their own despair. They've created their own problems. I really don't give a shit. And you know what's funny, guys? I love creating content. I'm enjoying myself making content. I'm like, working with new software for you guys. I'm getting better with editing. It's lovely, guys. It's so funny when you have people out here talking shit to me, because I'm out, guys. I'm basically, I have a six-figure business just from this channel, and I have other lines of business. I have my course business. I have my blog business, the Angry Clubhouse. That's a business. That's a separate business. I've got the course business. I've got the channel. I've got multiple YouTube channels. Each of these generates a separate stream of income. And, I'm making above six figures. And these are people that I work very, very hard, and I spend most of my free time learning and studying so that I can refine my skills. I discipline myself. That's the next big wave for the manosphere, is discipline. I watch what I eat. I'm very mindful about my eating. I'm very mindful about what I'm putting into my body. It's hard. It's hard to be disciplined, and more, I'm learning how to be alone. How to be alone and be okay being alone. And that's going to be the next big wave. It's not just discipline, but specifically learning how to be alone and finding peace by yourself. If you want to, interact with people, go overseas. Go overseas, go to Thailand, go to the Philippines. Learn how to learn these places, learn how to be safe over there. I have my course coming out for you guys, how to thrive overseas as a passport king. I have the course coming out for you. And it's very, once you know this, guys, like, most men are just going to avoid relationships in Western society. They'll play video games. They'll get their money. Women are out here attacking men for playing games. Oh, we don't like seeing you play games. You should be talking to us, or, doing something else. Like, guys, we're dealing with people in Western society who absolutely hate us. They do not like us. They cannot stand the fact that we even exist. They do not want us to have a moment of peace. They do not want us to have a moment of happiness. No, so men are waking up to this and realizing the juice is no longer worth the squeeze. It was never really worth the squeeze. If they want a relationship, if they want to be with someone, they're going to go overseas. They're going to go overseas, and you're going to find someone overseas who is fit, feminine, friendly. And they're going to live their best life overseas. Because that's just the reality of it. And it is what it is. It is absolutely what it is. There's no getting around it. And I'll say, guys, I love the fact that people can talk shit to me, but I love the fact that I'm able to wake up every day. And despite the fact that I work very, very hard, because I'm building, I'm grinding, despite the fact that I work very, very hard, this is my business. I haven't worked for anyone in over 10 years. Just over 10 years ago, I experienced homelessness. I was homeless for 8 months while working on my first postgraduate degree. And I said after that, never again. And I've never worked for anyone else other than myself since then. And so many people who watch my videos are so full of shit. Because how many of you can say that you can survive? You could survive on your own for 10 years. Working for yourself for 10 years. Those of you who have followed me for over 10 years. Okay? I've been a business owner for over 10 years. And it's incredible. And I'm only doing better and better because of the things that I learned and my willingness to continue to grind and grow. While there are some of you who are like, I want to go hang out with friends. They're not even your friends. Today, we don't really even have friends. We have acquaintances. That's a comment that I saw someone put. And I think that it's absolutely so true. The future right now that we're really looking at is that men are going to have more leverage. As much as they despise us, the fact of the matter is, as more men vote with their wallets, as they alienate their consumer base, men just walk away. And men are beginning to realize that we have actual power. And, that not just, we're seeing that in the gaming industry. We saw that with Bud Light, where men basically said, we're not going to buy this piss water anymore. They began flushing Bud Light down the drain. And You know, the more that they alienate men in society, guys, as they watch men walk away, it's only, you know, they can, as they're talking crap, it's only going to be wonderful. And, you know, even if society collapses, it won't be, guys, society won't collapse. Groups of people in society will collapse. Men, on the other hand, will continue to survive. The simp can go to hell. The Sims can go to hell, but men will basically succeed one way or another, because men, the average man, could live happily in a shoebox at the side of the road. So after, you know, after all the pain is past and everything, and society has to be rebuilt, men are not going to come back and rebuild society until the old system is completely torn down. And then, you know, basically, it's going to be, you know, it'll be survival of the fittest. And then when men come back, that's, you know, that's going to be the return of the Jedi, or whatever you want to call it, or return of the patriarchy. But that's really what it's going to be. What do you think regarding all of this, guys? Are you surprised that gamers have won, men have won? Their massive boycott against feminist propaganda in games has resulted in a $400 million loss for Sony, and more than $400 million loss, maybe as high as 700 million, almost $1 billion. And it's continuing to wreak havoc on a variety of different companies. Ubisoft, big losses with Jedi Outlaws. You know, it's just getting, it's incredible. What do you guys think regarding this? Let me know. We'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And cheers.